Nintendo! Next in line, final thing we're going to talk about. And at this point, we'll have the Smash Brothers Direct in about a day or two. So, what we're going to talk about Nintendo is their E3 plans. So, let's get into it. Yay! So, I'm kind of glad I waited Nintendo last, primarily because there was a lot of kind of like soft announcements that have been kind of being thrown around for the last week or so, especially these last few days. Like, for example, we know the Devil's Third is coming out at least in everywhere else August. So I think it's safe to assume that we'll get it in August. Because I think, Japan is August 4th and like Europe is like August 28th. So we're probably somewhere around there, early, mid-August. It's probably August. So we know we have a fall game, which is fine because you'll have Splatoon getting its full online features in August and like Devil's Third literally coming right off the heels of that. So that should be a smooth transition. And then you have Mario Maker in September. I think Yoshi's supposed to be somewhere in there, and Star Fox. That's besides the point. Nintendo's biggest issue currently with their E3 is that, see, when you're in last place, you can't really lose because no one expects anything of you, especially the mainstream media. The mainstream media doesn't understand Nintendo, and if you don't follow Nintendo patterns and you're not really dedicated to this shit, the standard consumer, Nintendo confuses. Like, the only Nintendo fans who follow the directs are the gaming media and press and the guys who went out and bought things like Bayonetta and went out and bought Rayman Legends on the Wii U. Like, we're the ones who were super dedicated and bought the core games. I mean, we're the people who bought Captain Toad, for God's sakes. Like, that's what we did in Kirby and the Rainbow Curse. Like, that's what we did. But for this E3, because they have really... The only thing they got to do is match the standard they did last year, which, as of right now, they are doing. The only thing they got to do is just make the digital event fun. Fun and interesting. That's all you got to do. And if it's anything like last year, which everything suggests it will be good. I mean, they even did the whole announcing of the E3 announcement stuff in a similar style of hilarity. And that's how Nintendo wanted to handle this kind of stuff. So if you want to do digital, and here's my thing, when it comes to the digital event stuff, people can say that they're not at E3, but there will still be E3 hashtag Nintendo 2015 shit going around. So you can say they're not at E3 because they didn't get on a stage, which to me is superficial as fuck. But they're at the stage. The things I really would like them to focus on, and even though I'm not super like, oh my god, we need this kind of mode, I still think that needs to be talked about because it's something that no matter where we move from this point forward, whether the NX comes out next year or another 2 or 3 years, this needs to be talked about, and that's features. The Wii U is sorely lacking in features in terms of its online infrastructure. And I don't think it's as terrible as other people say it is, but it is missing features, and it needs to change. Changing your public image and changing how people perceive you. Because, hey, look, I'll put it this way. The core Nintendo fans shouldn't be mad at the Wii U for the most part in terms of the game selection. You could be mad at the features. You could be mad at some of the decisions they made with certain games' features, but not like the actual games themselves and the overall quality. That is maintained consistent over the years. But it would be nice to get some more streamlined footage because I would like the Wii U not to be that console that just comes out being a testing ground for something greater, which is essentially what the GameCube ended up kind of being, where the GameCube ended up being the testing ground for the Wii, and the Wii just blew everything out the fucking water. But I still like the fucking GameCube, so that's a thing in itself. Nintendo has talked about a lot of unannounced partnerships that they, like they said, you will be surprised at the partnerships. Well, unless they're Western developers and it's with things that you wouldn't expect to see on Nintendo. And I do like the idea that was floating around that we would get our Nintendo versions of popular games, like a Nintendo Elder Scrolls maybe, or a Nintendo GTA. And I don't mean like there's a Nintendo I mean like there's a GTA spinoff that's only on. It's kind of like how the handheld Kingdom Hearts games are handled. That was not intentional. Shit happens. Where the main series title stayed on the Sony console, but we got literally all the side stories except for Birth by Sleep. So that's what I think there, and I think it would be kind of cool if we got our own Nintendo version of GTA and Call of Duty. It's like, oh, we're not getting Call of Duty Black Ops 3, but maybe we're getting Call of Duty Midnight Shoot 'em Up for the Wii U. You know, do an exclusive version. I think that would work better for them anyway, because Nintendo's kind of, the Wii U has kind of been set up as this console that like literally has experiences you can't get anywhere else. So why not make exclusive versions of the same games that you were playing on the other consoles? So we have our variant. And then that means you can make a sub-series specifically for Nintendo fans, while, you know, the main series is still on the consoles that, you know, are selling a lot. And if eventually the shit switches out, then you can just move the sub-series to a different console, to the weaker console of the next generation. That's really besides the point. Really talking about Nintendo, really, if we already have a good number of games that need to be talked about anyway. I mean, let's think about the games that we already know are coming. Yoshi, Zelda, which won't count because it's not coming out until next year. So, Yoshi, Mario Maker, Devil's Third, Xenoblade, Star Fox. Did I say Star Fox? I might have already said Star Fox. What else? I got about 4 or 5 games on my hand right now. I'm trying to make sure I'm not missing anything. There are, and that's the thing. There's not too many games that they've announced that haven't come out yet. I think it literally is Yoshi. It's only really Yoshi, Mario Maker, and yeah, Yoshi, Mario Maker, and what else? Xenoblade. That's it. Those are like the only 3 games I can think of from last year that aren't out. And then I guess we should also talk about the 3DS stuff, like the Hyrule Warriors coming to 3DS. I'm going to say this right now, Nintendo, for the love of God, do not make the same mistake the PSP made, where you start throwing console games on the handheld. For some fucking reason, Sony thought that was a good idea. That's like the worst decision you can make, because it doesn't make sense that if you are a fan of Sony, why would you own a fucking Vita and not a PS3? So that, and also considering you can play Vita games on your PS3, I think it does have crossplay. Why in the fuck would you play a Vita game on the Vita if you can play it on your PS3? Or you can play the same game on your PS3. That's why putting games like Uncharted and shit didn't make sense. I mean, that can do well enough. I mean, we put Mario on like every damn console you could. But like, and you didn't make any exclusive handheld franchises. To me, the handheld is where you experiment the most. So I don't understand what they were thinking there. So when we look at the current situation, and then we have our unannounced games from Retro, unannounced games from Next Level Games, unannounced games for Platinum, one of which we know will probably be a Nintendo-related game. Whether it's a new IP, whether it's a continuation of a Platinum game, whether it's a fucking developing of another game, the point is they will be involved in Nintendo's E3 at some point. And the fact that their announcement, which I've heard is fluctuated from being on the 16th to the 15th, has something to do with that. I mean, and then we got the Smash Brothers content that will be talked about on Sunday. So it's like, well, you're not putting that in your event, so that means you're not even relying on Smash, which means it really, Nintendo, I enjoy Nintendo's because Nintendo's makes me the most curious. But if I'm going to throw out some wild predictions for Nintendo, let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to bank on a new Punch-Out. There was something Level Head said a while back that I really clicked with. In the 50 Facts Extravaganza, there's a random scene of Little Mac in the boxing ring fighting Donkey Kong, and it switches to a behind-the-back perspective as if it's a Punch-Out game. Well, why the fuck is that in Smash Brothers? Especially because that scene literally has no purpose to be there at all. It's not like you can do a first-person view, so either that's hinting something that Smash Brothers is going to get some new settings, or that's hinting at a new Punch-Out. I'm going to say new Punch-Out. I'm going to say I'm hoping that, and see, a lot of people are hoping it's like a Beautiful Joe or Okami, but that still has to be a Capcom correlation. So I'm going to bank on something ridiculous. I'm going to say Darkstalkers, coming to Wii U, because that would be a very interesting twist. So Darkstalkers, and plus that, the game franchise, Darkstalkers is all but dead. So putting it on the Wii U won't do any good or bad for it. So I would say Darkstalkers for Wii U. Then Nintendo probably ended up funding. Maybe you're, let me see. So that, Punch Out. I don't want to say Metroid, but it'd be interesting. The fact that they say, can you dig it? Why say, can you dig it as your tweet to Nintendo's E3? But then again, if you're trying to make things ambiguous, you wouldn't go ahead and say it. So I guess Metroid possibly. I will agree with the Animal Crossing for Wii U rumor too. That seems very plausible. I'm hoping to see a new 3D Pokemon game. And I don't mean fucking, you know, a new handheld. I'm talking about a console game. Now, I've said this before. I would prefer to be something along the lines of Coliseum. But if it's something like Pokemon Snap or Stadium, it won't bother me. But I'm betting it's probably going to be on the line of Coliseum because they've already mentioned it's like, if we're going to do another game, actually, let me take that back. Because the thing with Pokemon now that I think about it is who made the games for XD and Coliseum? Intelligent Systems. What are they working on right now? Fire Emblem. Well, that's almost done. I think actually that is done. So at the very most, they might put out a teaser. We got, oh, that's the other game I was missing, Fire Emblem Cross Shin Megami Tensei. We got that that's coming out. Although that's coming out at the end of this year for Japan, so I can imagine that's probably going to come out early next year for America. Because that's when we're getting Brave the Second. That's when we're getting Fire Emblem If. That's probably when we're getting Zelda. So, yeah, I think this year will probably be devoted for, like, Splatoon, Star Fox, Devil's Third, fucking Yoshi, Mario Maker. I can see some smaller titles thrown in there. Maybe a new IP. And I hope to God, if they do a new IP, I hope it's a beat-em-up. I would love to see them do a beat-em-up. And I don't mean like a fighter. I mean like a fucking... I mean pretty much their own Bayonetta. Like, it was... like, you gave me Hyrule Warriors and you gave me Bayonetta. I would like something... a good mixture of both. And do it as a new IP. Because let's think about it. Bayonetta was touted... Bayonetta and Bayonetta 2 were touted as like one of the most fresh takes on the beat-em-up genre since like the original Devil May Cry series. Well, that's bad when you have only really one character representing a whole damn genre. Or technically two. And they're both from the same developer. So why not do another beat-em-up, but do it in a more traditional style? I would still buy a fucking Fire Emblem Warriors. So if that got announced, I'd be super hyped for. Project Treasure, which is still coming out, but I don't really count it because it's a free-to-play game. So just to play the damn thing, you're not going to have to pay anything. There's not really too much to talk about, but if you have to, but it's like, well, we got to think of what games would need a revivals and would be very interesting for Nintendo, which is why I say Darkstalkers, because they kind of need a fighting game series. They need a fighting. You got your shooter now, but you need your fighting game series, and you kind of need your sandbox game too. And actually, if they did a new IP, I would prefer it to be a sandbox game. Although I can see that bleeding, but if it's a sandbox game, they got to be already working on it. And that's my whole thing. I actually kind of hope... I like Metroid, but I would say if you put Metroid on the 3DS and gave me like a new, like if you had someone else handle a 3DS Metroid and then do like Retro doing like a new IP that's like a sandbox game, I'd be totally down for that. Because then it's like a new game from the ground up. There's not really too many theories you can go around, but like I could say that Nintendo will probably have at least 3 or 4 games we don't know about. And it'll be from all of these developers. Because even if Platinum has a game that's multi-plat, and then we also just found out recently that Scalebound Scalebound and Quantum Break won't even be shown at this year's E3 anyway. So it's like, well, that's interesting. Platinum has a new game to announce, and the other 2 games that they need to talk about aren't even going to be shown at E3. They're going to be shown at Gamescom. Well, why is that? So these other 2 games, you got to think they're coming out pretty soon. And then when you think about, well, what developer can they partner with that they haven't really messed with before? You got your Sega thing with, you know, the Rio games, the Olympic Rio games. But like, what else can you really do? You got your Capcom with maybe the possible Ryu stuff and Mega Man stuff. I'm gonna bank on a fucking Punch Out. I feel like Little Mac has been going through a revival. Also, another game I would totally be down for: a Kid Icarus Uprising 2 or a fucking port of the first game. That an HD port of that would be some bullshit in the terms of like. Well, actually no, because that game's been out since 2012. Kid Icarus Uprising is a 3-year-old game, so at this point, it won't. I mean, it's still sort of offensive, but at least it's more justifiable than fucking buying, you know, a game that came out last fucking year. And if you had like, and if you put that online, if you put that fucking on, if you put everything from Uprising on that bitch, I will get that. I will get that. I would totally get that. But personally, I would love a sequel. I feel like they've been on the rise of reviving certain IPs. You know, Chibi Robo's coming back. Fucking Kid Icarus. Fucking Punch Out. Who the fuck else? Also, crazy prediction. Mother series, Earthbound series will be some type of announcement. I feel like there will be something said about Earthbound because there's been a little bit too much Earthbound drops without there being any cause for it. Now, what they could do, and I would die if they did this, if they made a new Earthbound game and they bundled the first 3 with it. And if you bought the original Earthbound when it came out on the Wii U, this wasn't Earthbound 2 technically. If you bought Earthbound when it came out on the Wii U, you get like a discount. I would shit myself, but and I haven't even played the Earthbound series, but I just find that interesting. So I'm gonna bank on some Earthbound luck because I feel like that's what they're doing now. They're like, you know what? Let's go back here in the old closet and see which IPs we can fuck with. That's why Chibi Robo has completely changed gameplay styles, which I know some people are mad about, but I'm actually more interested in Chibi Robo now because it's pretty much fucking their version of Castlevania now. Chibi Robo's gonna be running around with that plug. Wacha, wacha, wacha. Like, the shit looks kind of cool to me. Maybe that's just me, though. The only other IPs they can really touch, and see, people are like, man, I want a Diddy Kong Racing, and I really hope it's not an F-Zero Diddy Kong Racing. And the only reason why is that you cannot throw consecutive racers at me. You can't have Mario Kart be out for a year and then give me another damn racer. I didn't like it when Forza did it. I'm not going to be super hyped about when they do it with Nintendo. I mean, granted, they're different franchises, yeah, but it's like, it's still a fucking racer with, like, slightly different elements. Now, if it's a realistic racer, that'd be a little bit better, but, like, yeah. What else? I do want some OS updates. That'd be cool. OS and, like, GameCube, Virtual Console. I just feel like the OS needs it. Like, this is the only conference I'd be fine with them talking about the OS updates. The other two don't have any reason to do that because they're already at the head of the curve, so they're fine. But like I wouldn't mind if the Wii U spent time on some OS updates on their event. Only if and granted if they do that, it'd probably be something that'd be like mentioned like randomly, or it'd be like a really small section, or it might even be after the damn event, like as a press release. Because they've been sneak doing things. I mean, like the friend request thing wasn't originally there, and that just kind of showed up. There was no like, oh, hey, guys, you can do friend requests now. Now it's just kind of like, hey, there you go. Also, Shantae for Smash. I'm going to keep that up. God, I hope that's a thing. I don't think it is, but God, I hope that's a thing. There's nothing really else I can say without it be getting... Obviously, we won't see Donkey Kong. We shouldn't fucking see Donkey Kong at all this year. A lot of people want a new Mario game this year. I'm fine with 3D World. Now, if you want to do like a sequel to 3D World, I'd be totally down for a sequel to 3D World and add in maybe some more characters. I don't know, maybe use the other ones you have in the Mushroom Kingdom. Wario! Wow, Luigi! Hi, I'm Daisy! Anyways, please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. This has been the Insane Game Freak. Life's a game. Play to win. And I will see you guys on Sunday for the live reaction on Twitch of the Smash Brothers Direct. Get hype! Get hype! Get hype! Pump it up! Pump it up! We're about to go in and turn up!